We're live.
Parfait. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Welcome to the October 19th meeting of Council. We'll start with roll call. I'll ask everyone to please announce themselves. Just make sure to turn your mics on.
Sorry, Michael Ternowski present.
André Brisson, présent.
Jamie Lauren here.
Cindy? You're muted, Cindy.
Unmuted.
There you go.
Can you hear? Cindy
Yeah.
Saucier here.
Perfect. And our clerk, Madame la Greffière,
Oui, Monsieur le Maire, I'm here. Joanne Camille-Laflamme, clerk.
Parfait. So item 2 and 3, prayer and national anthem, we don't do virtually. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. We have under section 11J, verbal report added by Monsieur Bourgon in regards to the hazardous waste day. Was there anything else from members of council? Okay, hearing, seeing none. I'll ask, that's it for number 4. Item 5, adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as amended. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Ternowski. All those in favor?
Mike Ternowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yeah.
Perfect. It is carried. Item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll go on to the next item. Item 7, l'adoption du procès verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 5 octobre 2020. Motion d'approuver le procès verbal tel que présenté. Moved by Councillor Saucier, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Questions or comments? No, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Mike Ternowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. Item is carried. Item 8 and 9, presentations, delegations, we have none. Item 10, consent items. Motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented. We have item A, request for the community grants from the Parks and Recreation Department 2020 budget. Item B, minutes of the Park, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee and Environmental Advisory Joint Committee meeting of August 26, 2020. C, minutes of the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee of August 26, 2020. Item D, minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee of August 26, 2020. Item E, minutes of the Police Village of Russell, February 6, March 5th, April 2nd, May 7th, June 4th, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd, 2020. Item F, minutes of the United Counties of Prescott Russell, August 26, 2020. And item G, pay list of September 2020. Was there any items to remove out of the consent items? Councillor Saucier?
Make a clarification in the grant about Terry Fox, because it said it was pending.
So we'll take out item A and you make your comments on that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, so if there's any others to remove, hearing none, let's vote on B, C, D, E, F, and G.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Madame Camille-Laflamme.
I'm not sure, Councillor Saucier, if you saw my email, if you wanted to remove the minutes of the environmental.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Also.
So we'll remove, okay, item A and D, and we're going to approve everything else in one bunch, and then we'll do A and D separately. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Ternowski. All those in favor?
Mike Ternowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Saucier, yes.
Okay, items are carried. So we'll do item A, which is the community grants separately. Councillor Saucier, you wanted to speak to that one?
Yeah, it was just on the Terry Fox, the way, I think it said it was still kind of pending, but I had notified that we wouldn't be using the funds this year because we didn't have any expenses. So we didn't need that community grant.
Okay, I think it could just be, Madame Guitar, you'll just be able to update the sheet for the next time.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yes, I will. We will probably be doing a big revision also before the year end because there was a lot of back and forth with the grants this year. So definitely we'll be looking into that.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
see?
Merci. So Councillor Tarnowski?
Just a quick clarification question. So in reviewing that, there was about $19,500 of unallocated funds due to COVID cancellations and so on. So Madame Guitar was talking about reviewing this at the end. So what's typically the process in reallocating those funds? Are there rules that they have to be within that program? How does that work? Can I just ask for clarification?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tarnowski. Normally, there's no funds by the time we roll up to year's end. Monsieur Godin, is that usually if there's a fund that's, if there's an overage there, I'm assuming you'd bring it up in your report about end of year?
Merci, Mr. Maire. Bonsoir, Chairman du conseil. So that's correct. Every end of year, we do bring a report to council to advise the status, the overall status of the budget, and if we're expecting a surplus, where we can reallocate those funds. We do go into some line-by-line items depending on the nature of the expenses. Like Mr. Mayor said, in the past few years, we haven't had those savings in that particular account, but maybe it is some discussions that I will have with Madame Guitar, and maybe we will decide to, or propose to council to allocate it to a specific project in regards to that, or to leave it in the general surplus to be used for the costs that we have for COVID or anything else that we might judge appropriate.
Excellent.
Thank you, Monsieur Godin. Any other questions on the Parks and Rec one? So I need a mover and seconder to put on the table. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Brisson. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Conseiller Brisson, your mic.
I was muted. Oops.
Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, André.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. Item is carried. Thank you, everyone. And the other item was item D, the minutes in the Environmental Advisory Committee of August 26, 2020. I believe, Councillor Saucier, you had some clarifications for that one?
Yeah, there was just a couple of minor typos or mistakes. It was the person's name Clarkson, and he was not with SNC. He's with the Ecology Ottawa. So I sent those changes this morning. And then also Echo East, not is Eco East, not Echo, like the word Echo, ECHO. So those were all corrected and then resent to me today.
Okay, perfect. So that'll be reflected, Madame Cameron-Laflamme?
But yes, we already have those, so we will revise the EAC minutes.
Okay, perfect. So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councillor Saucier. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. Item is carried. Just for those who are watching, juste pour ceux qui regardent, juste au cas tu es en train de regarder l'agenda français, j'ai remarqué que les numéros, les chiffres sont off. So, on est à 11 reports from department and council committees. On est vraiment sur l'agenda français, ça dit numéro 10, rapport des départements et comités du conseil, mais c'est vraiment 11. Je pense qu'il y a eu juste un manque d'un numéro quand on a fait de l'agenda en français. So, on s'en va à numéro 11. Oui, Conseiller Brisson?
Should you mention for the question period, since there might be some new one?
Oui, définitivement, sure I can do that. Anybody who's watching for the first time, we do have a question period. It is later on in the agenda, but the Q&A is available now. So make sure when you type in your question that you indicate your name and address for the record. Pour le monde que c'est la première fois qu'il nous regarde, si vous avez des questions sur l'agenda du jour, the questions have to be on the meeting of the day. Tu peux poser tes questions maintenant. Puis quand on va arriver à la période de questions plus tard, ils vont déjà taper, alors ça va aller un petit peu plus vite. Vous avez le temps d'écrire des questions à mesure. Merci beaucoup, conseiller Brisson. So item 11A, removal of part lot control, referred to bylaws under item 16, 709, 711 Azure Street in Russell. Any questions, members of the council, on this one? This is pretty standard stuff now. Hearing none, we will go to item B, demande de retrait de l'application du contrôle des parties de l'eau, se référer au règlement à l'article 16. C'est le propriété comme étant le 513 coureur en brun.
Non. Ah, t'as pas fait. B, tu l'as-tu fait?
B, excuse. Oui, demande de retrait de l'application contrôle des parties de l'eau, se référer au règlement, l'article 16.
C'est l'adresse.
L'adresse est juste changée, c'est pour ça. 719 rue Azur, même chose. Questions, commentaires? Hearing none, we'll go to the next one. Item C, Water and Sewer Unit Allocation, Village of Emblem Report, PD 73-2020, property known as 513 Kura Court in Emblem. The council received report PD 73-2020 dated October 19th, 2020, and the council allocates the requested 0.65 municipal water and sewer unit for the property legally described as being as lot 14 on plan 50M340, known as 513 Kura Court in Emblem. Questions, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? Pretty standard stuff. We'll move on to the next item. Item D, Water and Sewer Unit Allocation, Village of Emblem Report PD 76-2020, property known as 761 Notre-Dame Street in Emblem. Que le conseil reçoit le rapport PD 76-2020 daté du 19 octobre 2020 et que le conseil attribue 1,81 unités d'eau et d'égout municipal pour la propriété légalement descrite comme étant la partie du lot 9, concession 6, connue comme étant le 761 rue Notre-Dame en Brun. Question, membres du conseil? Quelque chose à ajouter de l'administration? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next item. Item E, request for phase 2 funding as part of the Safe Restart Agreement, report FS 37-2020. The council receives report FS 37-2020 dated October 19, 2020 and authorizes the request for additional provincial funding for phase 2 the Safe Restart Agreement, municipal operating funding, certified copy required. Monsieur Godin, I'll let you give us a little spiel on this one.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Maire. Essentially, this report is simply to have council's permission to apply for a grant for the our shortfall due to COVID. As council knows, we did receive automatically a grant for $400,000 to cover our operations because of the loss of revenues or the additional costs due to the COVID-19. There is a second phase to this program, which is an application phase. So we do have to make an application, show it to the ministry where we're losing funds, where we're losing revenues, or where we have increased costs. So we've shown council in the past few months the financial implications of COVID-19 on the township. It does go over and above the $400,000 that we did receive automatically, so we are completing an application. One of the criteria in that application is to have a resolution from council to endorse the application. So basically, what we're looking here from council here tonight is just acknowledgement that we're applying for those extra funding, and a resolution to allow us to do so.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Godin. Any questions, Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, have they been given any indication on turnaround time for decisions on this? Obviously, it would have a huge impact to our 2021 budget. Should we need to recoup $633,000 from the tax base?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, Councilor Oren, I don't have a specific timeline as to when we're going to have a response. I could double check and try to get that information for you if it's available. What I do know is that we had a short turnaround to make that application. The application is due on October 30th, with a possible extension of, I think, November 7th. So I would expect that before the year is over, we should have our response, but not before we're aiming to adopt the budget. In that regard. So basically, based on that response, we will be coming back to council to let council know what the result is, and if we do get funds, how we can use them to help us manage the COVID implications. And if we don't get the funds, well, what we're going to be doing to make sure we don't impact too negatively our financial situation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gooding. Other questions, members of council? Councillor Tanoski.
So just a clarification to make sure I understand. I'm familiar with the shortfall that Councillor Lorraine was just referring to, which is terrible, but it's part of life. But we did receive so far, I think it was 400K in the first phase, right? And that 400 offsets that 633, or are we still over 600 in the red after that 400?
Thank you, Councillor Tanoski. Monsieur Godin.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, that's a good question, Councillor Tarnowski. So no, the 600 wouldn't be after that 400. So it's not on top of that. Basically, if all the numbers were final that we've presented to you before, take the $400,000 revenue, then we'd be short about 200 or 300. But keep in mind though that the impacts, the numbers that we did show you was strictly for 2020, and we can expect that the impacts might keep on hitting us in 2021.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Conseiller Lorrain.
Sorry, I guess maybe I missed that somewhere then. So it's a total funding of 633, or are we asking for an additional 633 over top of the 400 we've already received?
No, Monsieur Godin.
Yep, through Mr. Mayor. So no, when we're referring to 600,000, I don't recall if it was you, Councillor Oren, or Councillor Tarnowski who referred that number. That was basically from the numbers that were presented to council earlier on. When we talk about $400,000, that's what we're receiving, or what we have received already. Right now, the application, we're still in the analysis phase, because even since last time we've presented you numbers, things have changed. So we're still calculating. We don't know yet what that specific number is that we're applying for. It might be more than 600. It might be less. But just to be clear, the numbers that we've presented to council a couple of weeks ago were the shortfall that we had estimated back then, not including a revenue of $400,000. But we did receive that 400,000, and now we're trying to get some more funding for the rest.
So basically, whatever our shortfall is, we've already received 400,000. We're going to apply for the difference, is my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the end of the report wasn't clear to me. I thought the phase 2 we were applying for 633. So that's where I must have got confused there, because that's what my understanding was. So, okay.
Okay. So if the number were to stay at 633, we've already received, for example, 400, so we'd be applying for the difference of 233. Obviously, we can't apply for more than the actual impact to the township. We're not going to gouge the province. We have to be able to justify all the funds we're getting. Councillor Tanoski.
So just to clarify that I understand again, is that I think in the forecasting, we were forecasting being short 633 by end of year, by end of December. And so if we're applying now for that phase 2, and I'm fully supportive of that, I'm assuming that we're also going to be planning that there's going to be further shortfall into the new year, considering there's no cure for COVID, and doesn't look like we're going to be in much of a difference between now and, say, the spring.
Monsieur Godin.
That's correct, but I believe the funding that we're applying for now is I mean, they have a specific template for us to fill out as far as the losses go and the forecast. So they're not asking us to forecast for the whole year 2021 yet. They're looking into the short-term future, but and we don't know, maybe there will be some more funding coming out if the province does fall into a deeper stage of restriction, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Conseil Tarnowski?
Last little point to make is that if I recall correctly, that 633 forecast that we had was assuming that we were maintaining in a positive, like getting out of this COVID, not going back into where there's some new shutdowns coming and so on. So that amount, in my opinion, was very kind of, how do you say that? Like it wasn't like, I think it's going to be higher than that, basically.
Yeah, most definitely. If there's changes coming again to our area, most definitely there will be another impact. Monsieur Godin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, I was just going to add also to your point, Mr. Councillor Tarnowski, that we're not restricting ourselves to what we presented to council last time. We are looking at our operations, and we are looking at the additional risks that we do see with the trends of the province currently.
Great.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, members of council? If there's nothing further, we'll move on to the next item. Item F, mise à jour de la politique de collecte des impôts fonciers, rapport FS 38-2020, que le conseil reçoit le rapport FS 38-2020 daté du 19 octobre 2020 et adopte le règlement proposé mettant à jour la politique sur la collecte d'impôts fonciers. Questions, membres du conseil? Questions for members of council? Councillor Saucier and then Councillor Tarnowski.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I was reading about the different tax collection policy and like contaminated property. What about abandoned properties? Like, what is the policy on that?
Thank you, Councillor Saucier. Monsieur Godin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as far as abandoned properties go, I think there's a lot of it depends. First comment is it depends. Property owners can always apply to MPAC for a change of class if the property is vacant. I believe it depends if it's a residential property versus if it's non-residential. What I do, this particular program here that we're referring in this policy that's been abolished is strictly for non-residential, so for commercial and industrial properties. If they have some vacant units, they have been allowed to apply for a tax rebate for those units leading up to 2020. The tax rebate program is a program that's managed 100% by well, it's not managed 100% by the counties, but it's led by the county. So it's a program from the United Counties of Prescott-Russell that each local municipality manages. And the counties have decided to abolish that program as of 2020. So that's why this report here is really just a house cleaning of our tax collection policy. We did have a small section on that tax rebate program, which now we have removed from the tax policy.
So essentially, if there's any property that's vacant, whether it's by choice or abandonment, they're paying the full taxation after this change, correct, Mr. Godin?
Yeah, for commercial and for industrial units inside a property. So there is also another program for properties that are actually classified as completely vacant, and that program is still active for another year. But I'm pretty sure council or counties also decided to abolish that program as of the following year. So we'll be coming back to council with a report on that one once that one becomes active.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Tarnowski.
I just want to say how happy I am to see that finally come through all the way down to our at our level. I think that's something that was from the get-go. I mentioned about having these commercial lots that are sitting vacant, especially in some areas more than others, and at least it'll encourage. It's not a big difference in price, but at least we are not encouraging vacancy around that. So glad to see it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions, members of council? Seeing none, anything to add, Monsieur Godin?
No, that's it.
Okay, perfect. We'll go on to the next item. Item G, Route 200 realignment report ISPW 18-2020. That council receives report ISPW 18-2020 dated October 19, 2020, and approves a proposed bylaw to amend the traffic and parking bylaw 31/2004 to reduce the speed limit to 60 kilometers an hour on Route 200 between Edie Road and St. Guillaume Road and between Hamilton and North Russell Road. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Brisson, then Councillor Tarnowski.
Yeah, because I was the one that did ask to consider those curve before repaving the road, but at no time was I for dropping the limit for a full mile in between the route, because there will be so many change of speeding just for the curve. Because if they start at St. Thomas, it's 80, then they go to 80, and then it goes to 60 just for a curve that is in the middle. So I don't see the utility of this, especially that there's almost no houses neither. And there's already some good sign for those curves. So that's why I'm not for dropping the speed limit for those sections.
Okay, thank you, Conseiller Brisson. To address that, Monsieur Bourgon, the recommendation is based on the ministry standards for the road design and what the speed limit should be. Is that correct? If I remember well the report.
Well, through Mr. Mayor, yes, so we're following all the guideline that's available to us, and also based on the analysis that we did in order to have the proper radius of the curve, we need to lower our speed, which would be lining up with the design speed of those curves. So that's why we're in front of council with that recommendation instead of realigning the curve. So that's it's not the first option is always to realign the curve to maintain that the appropriate speed. But in this case, because of the feasibility of those construction, we're recommending to lower the speed, similar to what we did a few years ago on Groves Road.
Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. Councillor Tarnowski.
So I don't disagree with the speed limit aspect of it and the ideal scenario of having it straightened out. But what's the context behind doing the report? Were there accidents, or were just why are we moving on this?
Okay, thank you, Monsieur Bourgon.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. Donc, on a toujours eu le questionnement de détourner le trafic lourd de Russell. Donc ça, c'était une des premières choses qu'on voulait regarder, si c'était même faisable d'utiliser la route 200 comme un truck route. With the same exercise was to realign the curves to make it safer. So part of that analysis of make it safer before repaving that segment of road, that's why we're recommending to council to actually lower the speed limit. But to answer your question, there's no history of accident. It was just a revision of safety of that area.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Tarnowski.
Thank you, merci, Monsieur Bourgon. So is that to say that we can't use it as an alternate truck route if there is that curve? Is that correct? My understanding.
Monsieur Bourgon.
Well, to be used as a truck route, it's more of like the structure of the road. It's not built properly, so to make it a truck route, the full road would need to be reconstructed. So basically, starting from zero, so dig down, to remove the clay base that we do have, put more gravel. So that's why you see in the report like those costs being in over $6 million just to do that reconstruction of road. Okay. So it's like a two-part here in that analysis that we've done for that road.
Perfect. Councillor Associate?
Yeah, was there that recent accident? Was that not at Route 200 and Edie Road that happened? Do they hit and run? But and then that sort of sparked a lot of people writing letters and what have you, because I'm totally for lowering the speed limit on that road, and especially with the curve. And then I think if it was straightened, people would just go faster. So I think it's a smart move to lower the speed limit. But am I correct on that, that was the site of the accident?
Monsieur Bourgon, I believe it was at 280 Road. Somebody went through the stop sign, if I remember reading the OPP post on online.
So it's not the curb.
Well, it wasn't at the curb location.
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Conseiller Brisson and Councillor Tarnowski and Conseiller Larin.
Yeah, but instead of having all the road that is in the country, why can't we just put the curve at 60? Because all the rest it's in the country, and it's a road that is to bypass the town of Russell and is safe for the rest. So why having all, because like the curve is right in the middle, so it's a full mile that I find for myself nothing, but why can't you just put the limit on the curve and the rest is okay? Because all the rest is at 80, so.
Monsieur Bourgon?
Mr. Mayor, so the intention was to have those signs to flag those two curves, not to have the entire 1.4 kilometer of road, but just like closer to those curves.
Okay, so you're not saying that it's between Eddy, because here it says to reduce the between Eddy and Saint-Guillaume Road. So it would be just at the curve that it would be dropped to 60, not all the strength. That make a big difference.
Monsieur Bourgon?
Yeah, no, the intention is really to cover those two areas of curve. So yeah, so it's will be a matter of sign placement in this case.
Yeah, but should it be written in the resolution that it's each side of the curve, that the curve section be reduced to 60 and not saying between Eddy and Saint-Guillaume and between Hamilton and North Russell, because it's confusing depending how you look at it?
So I think it's more important how the bylaw is written in regards to the bylaw. So if we look at the bylaw,
So the bylaw really just reflected the road segment, not necessarily specific how many meters, as an example, east of Eddy and west of Saint-Guillaume as an example.
So you're confirming that it's just for the curve?
Yes, it was only for the curve portion.
Okay. If it's for the curve, that's okay, but that's why I didn't like the way that it was written. But if you confirm the curve, it's okay.
I think we might need some adjustment on the bylaw itself, though, Monsieur Bourgon, because it does specify between Eddy Road and Saint-Guillaume Road. So if we can just look at some possible wording changes by the time we get there, I think we'll need to amend that bylaw just so it's more specific. I believe it was Councillor Tarnowski, then Conseiller Larin.
Yeah, I was just going to ask to pull that.
Okay. Conseiller Larin.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand. So the 8 signs, are they the white speed limit signs, or are they the yellow reduced speed sign? And which, because we already put those up for curves to begin with. So are you asking in this report to put those yellow signs up, or are you asking to put the white signs, which actually changes the speed limit officially for those curves?
Thank you, Conseiller Larin. Monsieur Bourgon?
Mr. Mayor, so it would be the white signs, since it will be adopted by bylaw. The yellow tab signs can be put up just by administration without coming to council. So in this case, yes, it will be the white signs.
Great. Any other questions? Go ahead, Conseiller Larin.
Sorry. So then can this process occur at any one of these types of curves?
Yes, it could. It depends of the radius of the curve.
Okay, I'll come back to this one then after. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be separate, so we'll be able to discuss it further. Okay, if there's nothing new at this point, we'll move on to the next item. Item H, Sentier récréatif de la rue Blais, rapport ISPW 19-2020, que le conseil reçoit le rapport ISPW 19-2020 daté du 19 octobre 2020 et approuve le plan d'action proposé pour l'amélioration de la sécurité du sentier récréatif le long de la rue Blais. Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Conseiller Tarnowski, then Councilor Lorrain.
I just wanted to say excellent to hear, really happy to read that. I was very happy to see the positive resolution that was brought up through the PRAC committee. So it's nice to see it move forward. Thank you. That's it for me. You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
I'm muted. Wow. Okay, somebody clicked me off. Conseiller Lorrain, you have a question?
Yep. My question, question maybe more of a comment. So we talked about this area and cars driving and whatnot. I think there's two main spots that I've found recently, because I go to the Ember Marina quite often these days, a lot more than I ever have with hockey. And when you're coming off of Saint-Jean-Baptiste, turning right onto Blais, because of the width of the road versus the width of the path, it truly looks like you're supposed to turn into that one spot, and the other side is the actual road. I don't know if it's road line painting that needs to get done there as well, but especially in the dark, turning right onto Blais Street, it's very misleading there. Even though bollards are supposed to be for whatever, for the safety side, when you're turning, they almost look like the widths are identical on both sides. So it looks like you're supposed to turn in there, and then coming out of the parking lot right after where the sign is at the like the big sign for the arena, when you turn right there, it's very close to the same situation. So I can see where it's very misleading, and whether or not we put some sort of a signage on the ground or somewhere else, but it's definitely there's definitely some issues with it.
I think thank you, Conseiller Lorrain. I think the report stated, Monsieur Bourgon, that you'll be putting bollards like in the middle of that entrance, offset from the other bollards, so you won't be able to actually like go in. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, yes, so that's correct. All location that Councillor Lorrain just mentioned, that's what was mentioned in our report, so we will be addressing those locations.
Okay, parfait. Other questions, Conseiller Brisson?
Yeah, and one comment, since Conseiller Laurent was talking about Saint-Augustin, Saint-Baptiste, and the other one, I think it would be good too if the first post would be back up a bit, because whenever you arrive to turn, it's almost too much in the road, that if it was back up maybe 4 feet farther on, that it will be a bit less confusing and a bit more clearance to turn. And as it was mentioned, if you put another post in the middle, then it will be clearer. And if there's the paint down, I think that will be a real good place, because also there's a bit whenever you're coming from Notre Dame that has to be clear up, but with some post and paint, I think it will. I'm glad that they're working on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Quelque chose à ajouter, Monsieur Bourgon?
Non, rien à ajouter à ce sujet-là.
Parfait, merci beaucoup. On va aller à la prochaine. Item I, New York Central Train Station Report. The council receives the information report PR 16-2020 dated October 19, 2020, and gives direction to the administration for the next step to be taken for the revitalization of the train station. Madame Guitard, interesting report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, it is interesting. You're right about that. So council wanted me to present you some information concerning the status of the building. So this is what we seek through an engineer report. We received that back in June. So this is what I'm presenting tonight. So there are costs to be associated if we want to use the train station as for a Class D or E. So just to be more precise, a Class D would be for doing businesses or personal occupancy, and E would be for mercantile occupancy, which is like for selling sales service. Obviously, there's other things that would need to be done under the building code, but those are the two classes that the engineer report was based on. There were some costs associated with the report. One was for the wood structure that would probably go around from $5,000 to $8,000. And the other one, which is the major work, would be to replace completely the proposed slab on grade foundation. So this, the engineer would say that it would be from $28,000 to $38,000. In the engineer's report, they did not take into account for the replacement of the wood cladding that is damaged in some areas, for the wood trim and the windows. So those would be extra cost also. I wanted to present this report tonight because I think that in the budget, part of the budget sessions, I would like to go into more extensive details about this. There were also some recommendations that came from the Pratt committee. So those were also mentioned in my report. One of them, the main concern about the committee was to get some estimates before we do something we go forward with another project for the train station and find maybe another vocation for the station also. So this is what I'm presenting tonight. We can have further discussions on Wednesday during the budget sessions, but I'm open to questions if you have any tonight.
Thank you, Madame Guitard. Members of council are aware of this, but for the public who might not be aware, this train station at the entrance of our bike path is not the original train station for the village or the municipality. This was actually the train station, if I remember well, from Berwick, that was that the municipality at the time was trying to get rid of, and somebody at the municipality, Russell, decided that they would take it and bring it here for I don't know what reason back then. You know, you're talking 20, 30 years ago, if not longer. But we have this now. It is in our municipality, so we have to decide, you know, what do we want to do with it. So there's questions. I saw Councillor Sosi had her hand up. Councillor Tarnowski.
Okay, thank you. I do remember when it was used as a kiosk many years ago. So it was used sort of as an information kiosk. Question I had was, why would we consider moving it? Because I find that is such a visible location. You know, if we were going to utilize it for something, it's like smack in the middle of what's there. So that was my question.
Okay. It could be moved for a number of reasons. We'll obviously get into that when we discuss the budget. But I don't believe this report here talks at all, Madame Guitard, about the cost of actually moving it as well.
No, but it mentioned the dome.
Yeah. Madame Guitard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yeah, there will definitely be a cost associated into moving the train station. We didn't get an estimate. What we had is a a cost estimate from about 4 years ago when they moved the shelter from the landfill site to the Route 400. That costed like $17,000. And we had to take into account that it was on a secondary road where there's no traffic and no hydro lines to go through. So definitely, and that's 4 years ago also. So we would need an update on maybe to get an estimate on how much it would cost to move the train station.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tarnowski and then Conseiller Lorrain.
So I just need a clarification, Madame Guittard. Did we spend money on doing the roof for this building last year? How much was that?
Madame Guittard.
Yes, and like I think I had mentioned that to the PRAC committee, we did get the roof done and we spent $4,000 on that. We didn't want to wait on that because we didn't want any water damage inside the building. So this is why, and we had secured some money back in the 2019 budget. So this is why we went through this this repair, because we thought it was an urgent repair to be done.
Okay, thank you.
Conseiller Lorrain.
Yeah, so my question to this is, don't we have a project going on for the streetscape and the master plan for the streetscape, and that whole section was part of that? So was that taken into account during this whole process? Because I'm confused as to costing and stuff.
So in regards to the you're asking if the streetscape presentation that was made in that report back then, if it included this building, is that correct?
I'm asking if it included plans for that whole area, because that obviously has an impact as to if and what we choose to use that facility for, and whether or not we're going to sink in $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
Yeah. I believe there was a plan that was presented. I can't remember if the building itself was part of the plan because it was there. That plan was done through, I believe it was Madame Tremblay's department. T'as-tu l'information là-dessus, Madame Tremblay?
Bonsoir, membre du conseil. Oui, le secteur au complet au coin de Notre-Dame et Blais était revu à l'intérieur du Streetscape Master Plan qui a été approuvé par les membres du conseil. Puis oui, il y avait des suggestions au niveau de comment on pourrait mieux réutiliser ce secteur-là. Puis la station n'était pas à cet endroit-là pour être capable de mieux utiliser l'espace pour du stationnement puis rendre ce secteur-là plus sécuritaire.
OK, alors la bâtisse, elle ne faisait pas partie des plans du Streetscape Master Plan du tout.
Elle faisait partie je m'excuse, je me suis mal exprimée. Oui, elle faisait partie des plans dans le sens qu'il nous avait donné des suggestions de comment utiliser cette station-là. Puis en plus, on la déplaçait parce qu'il jugeait que l'endroit pouvait être mieux réutilisé d'une façon pour rendre l'espace plus sécuritaire. On déplaçait la station.
OK, merci Madame Tremblay. Essentially, on va laisser Monsieur Brisson y aller, mais we're going to be discussing about this at the budget in a few days. Obviously, it's a significant cost to it. It's almost half a percentage point when we're talking budget time, so we'll have to really consider what we want to do with this building. But go ahead, Monsieur Brisson.
Oui, comme vu que c'est pas une urgence capitale, comme on veut dire urgence extrêmement, je me demandais si on pouvait juste le tabler pour que les membres du PRAC en discutent, eux autres aussi, puis voir, pour qu'on ait l'opinion du comité, voir eux autres, qu'est-ce qu'ils recommandent dedans, puis de nous le ramener. Puis même si, selon moi, même si on attend à l'année prochaine pour dépenser de l'argent, surtout si on parle que pour faire la fondation, si on parle de leur déménager ou quoi que ce soit, mais que ça donnerait, comme il y avait de l'air, les membres du comité, vraiment à vouloir participer à la décision de ça, puis ça pourrait nous donner d'autres options si on en discutait au PRAC. Moi, c'est pour ça que je suggérerais si on pouvait le ramener au PRAC, s'il vous plaît.
Okay.
Avant d'en prendre ici.
À ce point ici, c'est juste de l'information. Le conseil regarde ou l'administration regarde pour une direction que ça. Moi, je suggère qu'on attend juste une couple de jours au budget, avoir plus de discussions là. Mais si, je veux dire, PRAC, il peut tout le temps l'avoir sur le sujet d'un autre jour pour, soit mis au courant du rapport puis les coûts associés. Puis s'il y a des recommandations qu'ils aimeraient faire au conseil, ils peuvent le faire à ce point-là. Councillor Tarnowski, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify. So from a PRAC perspective, like we were just, the committee was hoping for an action, something pertaining to either doing it or taking it down or using it as storage or just, but like moving forward with it rather than just leaving it there and nothing happening. So we might be able to get that kind of decision done through budgeting, I think.
Okay. So I would recommend that we've received it. That's pretty much what it is. We'll give further direction at the council, at the budget sessions once we have a better understanding where the funds are going. And because we're going to end up at budget time like we always do, saying, okay, well, we need funds here. Where do we want to take the funds from this project? So that's the whole point of the budget session. Conseil Laurent, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so can we pull this one out? Because obviously I think we need to rejig the resolution itself, because it's not just receiving information, it says and gives direction.
Yeah, well, the direction is that we'll discuss it further at budget time. That's I think that's the direction I'm suggesting. And that,
right, but for us to be able to say that, we have to take it out of the consent. Because if we go consent items, and it gets grouped in and says, yes, everything goes the way as per the recommendation. Well, what's the recommendation? It gives direction to the administration for the step, but we haven't given it.
Well, I think, you want to take it out, that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, the next step is that we're discussing it at budget time. But if you want to change the wording on that, I'm fine with it. So we'll remove that item and we'll move on to the next.
Monsieur le Maire.
Oui, Monsieur Le Duc.
So, Madame Conseil, I just wanted to explain that to council that, I think one or two councils back, reason why the administration nor council has taken a stand on this in this building was that there was a resolution passed by a former council to give this building to Le Musée d'Antan de Saint-Albert. And that's why we had never really invested in this building, because that building was supposed to be taken out and moved to Saint-Albert into the museum there. So that's why I know we've not done much, but I think some people are forgetting sometimes past decisions. And that was one that was made by a former council where it was to be handed over to somebody else. So that's why we stayed away from that building. And now I understand it's a matter of discussion now, and we'll be discussing that at budget. That's fine. And I think Councilor Laurent is right in asking for an amendment to the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Monsieur Le Duc. So this item will be pulled out. We can make amendments when it comes up. So next item is item 12, reports from investigator and the ombudsman. We have none. Item 13, notice of motions. We have none. Item 14, question period on on the meeting of the day. So we do have some questions. I'll have to let members of the public know that it's only on the questions can only be asked on items that are on the agenda on the meeting of the day.
Pierre, excuse,
Mr. Mayor?
Pierre, on a oublié J
Hazardous.
pour le...
Okay, wait. My apologies. Before I'll go a step back. Yes, we did add 11J. Sorry about that, Monsieur Bourgon. Your verbal report on Hazardous Waste Day.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Donc, je voulais juste prendre l'opportunité de la rencontre de ce soir pour donner un compte-rendu au conseil de la journée de samedi. Donc, en commençant, je veux prendre le temps de remercier tous les employés qui ont participé à la journée de samedi, puis aussi qu'à l'équipe de Drain Hall qui ont rendu cette journée-là comme un vrai succès. C'était de loin notre meilleure journée depuis qu'on fait des collectes de produits dangereux. On a eu 781 véhicules lors de cet événement qui a passé au travers des portes du garage municipal, ce qui nous a permis de détourner 47 000 litres de produits dangereux ainsi que 5 000 kilos de produits dangereux là, qui n'iront pas vers des dépotoirs, which exceed by far all the previous quantities that we had in the past. The event ran from 8 to 2. The reason that we absolutely need to stop at 2, it's based on the approval that we do receive from the ministry. And also, we need to allow ourselves some time to clean up, and which, based on the amount or quantity that we've got, we were done only by 4:30 that day, and we actually were on site at 6 in the morning to start preparing the day. So those two elements together is the reason why we stopped collecting items at 2. Cars were lined up at the garage door starting at 6:30 that morning. So right there, it's like a backed up was already created on Route 300. So that created an issue throughout the day. The lineup actually went, according to some resident, all the way to Sainte Marie, which is about 3 kilometers away from the garage. So knowing that, and we were able to figure out that once a car reaches Saint-André Road, it took about an hour to get to the garage at the rate that we were actually emptying cars. So knowing that fact, I asked one of our bylaw officer to go at Saint-André near 12:45 on Saturday to start telling vehicles that we were at capacity, or that they would not have enough time to actually reach the garage. So that's why we had to turn around about 200 cars that day. Last thing I wanted, it was like someone to spend 2 hours in a lineup to be told at 2 o'clock that we're closed and we're not taking any material. Donc, c'est pour cette raison que je voulais m'assurer que les gens ne perdent pas une partie de la journée à attendre sans pouvoir disposer de leurs produits dangereux. Mais aussi, ce qui est important de mentionner, c'est qu'il y a d'autres options pour ces gens-là. Si on va sur notre site web, on fait référence au site web Make the Drop. Donc, pour lorsqu'il y a de la peinture, des batteries, des cannes de propane, de ce genre d'items-là, ben, il y a d'autres alternatives pour nos résidents qui peuvent déposer de ces produits dangereux-là au courant de l'année. Donc, je sais que c'est sûrement un sujet qui va revenir lors des délibérations du budget. Je me suis aussi informé avec Drain Hall, qui est notre contracteur pour ce genre d'événement-là, puis sont déjà à capacité pour le restant de l'année. Puis présentement, ben, on a notre prochaine collecte qui est prévue au début mai 2021.
Merci, M. Bourgon. A few questions I have in regards to, you make reference to our site, our website, and the information that's there so that people can year-round drop off at different locations and stuff. Do we have a general idea, nothing too specific, but I'm wondering how much of the material that was taken at the Hazardous Waste Day on Saturday could have actually been dropped off? You know, for example, paint cans could have been brought to Home Hardware any time throughout the year, or batteries could have been given, or propane tank. Like, do we have an idea as to the amount of material that was received that could have been brought in other locations throughout the year?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. So just to give council a rough idea, the paint material was about almost half of the liquid quantity that we did collect. So out of that 47,000 liters of material, almost half was paint-related material. So all those material could have been dropped at Réunion or Home Hardware, or maybe other hardware store throughout the year.
Okay, so that obviously, if people had not waited till that one day and went throughout the year, it would have a significant impact of less amount of people going through the Hazardous Waste Day, if I understand correctly. That's it.
And or at least it would have be faster to empty out those vehicles.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Councillor Tarnowski, Councillor Saucier.
So we clearly, so first of all, Mr. Bourgon, a big thank you to you and your team for working throughout the day Saturday. I was in the lineup, and it did move, and it did take time, but I was very happy to do it. I think that that everything that I'm going to now say has nothing to do with the quality of work that you guys did and everybody on your team, because it was really good, very well run, very well organized. Having said that, I think our township is growing. I think the demand certainly this year has grown exponentially by the looks of it or sounds of it. And I think that we need to look at the service level that we're providing, and either whether it's partially education, which clearly is, like, I've been a resident here for 22 years, and yeah, I know that I can drop certain at certain retailers and so on, but I waited for that. I've had my stuff, in the garage waiting to do that. I'm really concerned that many residents that end up saying, it's too much of a pain to do this, are just going to dump this in their garbage bags and so on. So I think based on that, I think we really, it would be nice for us to look at what kind of opportunities we can look at to improve the service, namely having either multiple collections throughout the year, or having something where, like in the old days, there was a specific area at the local dump where we can bring. I know we can't do that now, but look at ways that we can do that, where we can consistently drop off stuff. Again, I'm not looking for an answer today, but I would love to see us look for opportunities to improve that. Again, we're growing. We have a lot more residents, and I think for the protection of the environment, it's something that we really need to look at, see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarnowski. Monsieur Leduc?
Monsieur le Maire, membre du conseil, I think at least the initial effort should be about more communications from our website, referring those sites that you can bring every day all this material. So at least that would address the concern that by Councillor Tarnowski about people throwing it in garbage. I think we can work on the communication regarding our different posts, social media posts, to address that issue and that concern, so that people don't throw it out and put it somewhere where it's safe. So we can certainly address that. It's a cheaper alternative for the immediate, and maybe I'll get some diversion right away on some of these cans that are out there in the basements and garages.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc. I think as well, this was a unique year in the sense that everybody had an opportunity to clean out their garage or their basement. And I believe Monsieur Bourgon, I had a conversation with you earlier, and you heard a lot on Saturday is, I finally got rid of this after 10 years, right? So there was a lot of people who were doing major cleanups. Councillor Saucier and Councillor Lorrain.
Yes, thank you. Well, I was there volunteering on Saturday, and one of the other issues that happened that day was there was an accident. On Route 300. Hydro was there, a pole was down, and they redirected all the traffic down to Route 500 back to St. Marie, and so everybody that was coming from Russell was coming the same direction, so that also attributed to the backup. And then, of course, we also had to space the bays. We had more bays open other years. So because of social distancing, so I think that slowed down the process a tad. And I was in the line trying to get to my shift, and it took me an hour. I got out of the car and walked and to get there. And so I also want to thank the EAC volunteers, as Jeanette Monaghan volunteered her time, and also Tim Schmidt offered his time as well. To the event. And my question, well, I like the recommendation of possibly having it twice a year, spring and fall, because we are growing and seeing, like, I've been there every year, and I just could not believe the 800 cars that came through, and it just never stopped, and you never saw the end of the line, and it's never been like that. The other thing, I'm just curious, what is the cost for the drain-all for one event? So just so people realize also how much it costs, and is even a second day feasible, like a spring and fall event?
Thank you, Councillor Saucier. Monsieur Bourgon, if I remember, budget last year was about 30K.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. So the net cost is about $30,000. I'm mentioning net cost because, like, the total cost, it's about 50,000, but we do receive about 20,000 back for the recycling of the material.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Conseiller Lorrain and Conseiller Brisson.
Yeah, Councillor Saucier actually brought up a good point that I was gonna ask, is what was the cost? So 30,000. oops, I must have clicked on something else here. So that's good. Yeah, I think that was all I had. There's something else, but I can't think of it right now.
Okay, not a problem.
Sorry.
Conseiller Brisson?
Yeah, just to confirm with Jonathan, if we had the date right now already scheduled, because you mentioned in May, but do we have the exact date that we can?
Monsieur Bourgon, as-tu la date exacte au mois de mai?
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Donc, selon notre règlement, c'est le premier samedi de mai. Donc, l'année prochaine, je crois que ça tombe le 1er mai.
Okay.
Mais c'est réservé comme c'est là avec la compagnie?
Oui, exactement. Drain Hall sont déjà réservés là, pour cet événement-là.
OK. Puis mon autre commentaire que je voulais faire, justement, comme M. Leduc a mentionné, je crois que c'est important de le mettre clair au public que le Rona, ils prennent encore en brun, la peinture, puis le Harm Hardware à Russell. Pas celui en brun, mais celui de Russell. Fait qu'il y en a une place aux 2 villages pour le prendre. Puis ça a donné que cette année, il y a bien du monde qui ont fait des rénaux. Ça fait qu'il y avait plus de peinture, mais qu'on devrait faire beaucoup de promotion là-dessus, dire attendez pas comme à la journée des produits, allez le mener tout de suite de retour quand vous en avez fini ou quand vous faites le ménage, que ça enlève déjà un gros montant pour cette journée-là. Puis il ne faut pas oublier que les autres années, il n'y avait pas tant de monde que ça, là. Il y en avait du monde, mais on venait à bout de le faire dans la journée. C'est juste que là, ça a été un perfect storm, que ça a tombé, que ça a été remis plus tard. Le monde a eu plus de temps pour nettoyer. Tout ça, ça fait que c'est mon commentaire de faire sûr d'avoir de la publicité pour les autres endroits aussi, puis tout ça. Puis,
Okay. Merci, Conseiller Brisson. Councillor Laurent, you remembered?
Yeah. So I guess what I'd like to make sure is clear too is there's 2 factors, right? There's the cost factor, but then there's also the third party company factor that we have to book to ensure that we have the proper material, the proper disposal ability. And if I heard correctly, like they're booked right solid through. So, you know, it'd be great to say, yeah, let's have another session in 2 weeks. However, the company itself isn't available to do that if I understood that correctly. So we really have to make sure we're planning these way ahead of time so that we make sure that we can get rid of and meet the needs of the community. So there's 2 factors, right? Cost and ability to book the company to do it. Unless there's others out there, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Conseiller Laurent. Yeah, as well. Obviously, you know, people just think that, yeah, you can just, you know, since we're storing it in our garage, you guys can just put it in a corner in your building somewhere and hold it. But no, there's a whole process with the Ministry of the Environment, Monsieur Bourgon. I know we used to have a permit at the landfill site, but that was, we had an employee on site every day and we had those standards in place. You know, currently we don't have that set up anymore. So what would be involved if ever we wanted to go that route where we could have, for example, a drop off once a month or whatever the case is? How would that process work?
The first step would be to find a location, then establish a proper shelter or building. It needs to be fenced in. So you need to have an employee on site when would be the drop off schedule. Let's say if it's once every 2 weeks, well, you need to have someone present. And based on those frequency of being open, then you coordinate with the hauler, in this case Drain Hall, to come and get those items frequently throughout the year. And of course you need all the proper approvals from the ministry.
Right. So I think based on Saturday, you know, it was a wonderful event. It was well attended, you know. It was just the sheer amount of people that were coming. And obviously, you know, when I hear that half of the liquid that was brought in was paint and could have been brought throughout the year to a few different locations, you know, I see that as that, you know, it would have been better if residents would have taken that time, not to do it solely on this day. But again, that comes back to education. But I think we have opportunities, right? We have the VARS transfer station, JFL. Maybe we could have discussions with them to see, is there a way for the township to partner with them to have a drop-off location with them? We have Nation Township that still has a landfill site close by and still has that ability. So maybe it's a partnership with that municipality. I think that, there's possible avenues to look at to improve this service. So, Monsieur Bourgon, I invite you to put your thinking cap on and make some initial calls. If council, from what I've heard from council, we're looking to see how we can improve this service. Again, we'll have discussions at budget time, but there might be other avenues on how we can go about this and think outside the box a little bit, and not necessarily take a huge financial hit to the township to move this forward. Conseiller Lorrain?
Would it make sense, given the frequency of the comments or concerns raised over the last couple of days from members of the community, on whether or not we can put something up on our board, something like a town hall that says missed waste day, know the options, and give a couple of options on the board to put stuff out just for the next couple of weeks or something, so that people know that they have those additional options. Yes, social media and website and whatnot, but maybe just flash it up there for the next couple of weeks, and that way people will see it when they're driving by and go, oh yeah, okay, well there's a good option I can use. So just a thought to utilize that board.
Yeah, good comment, Councillor Lorrain. Monsieur Leduc, I see taking notes. We can just put up, put it up, the missed waste day, check out our site for different options and put the link. I think that'll drive people to the website and get them looking. So, okay. Any other comments, question on this? Councillor Tarnowski?
Thank you. So I really like your comments that you made pertaining to trying to find better options, and I'm really happy to hear that we're going to push on something right away to put to communicate with residents that did miss it. I know cost is important. We're always talking about cost, and I'm the first one that focuses on cost, but I think the cost of the environment by us not doing that is exponentially higher. And so I'm really happy to hear that we're going to do something. I love the idea of a partnership or something where it's once a month that we have to staff or something like that. Anything that we can do. I mean, we've increased the leaf pickup to twice a year, where we can just go anytime ourselves to go and bring it. And now we have 2 pickups. I know that it's not the same price in doing that, but we definitely need to address this. This is really important, and I would hate to see stuff that shouldn't be going in waste in land waste sites. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tarnowski. If there's no further question, that's it for item 11 reports.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure. Yeah, just a note on what happened on Saturday with the COVID hitting. Russell Home Hardware wasn't picking up any paint all year. So I'm sure that probably added to it because of the COVID. The truck wasn't coming to pick up the recycled paint. So that definitely probably was a little more of a hit also.
Yeah, no, definitely COVID had an impact this year. That's a definite, just for the amount of traffic that we saw coming in this year, just changed everybody's pattern. And but hopefully moving forward, if we can improve it, improve the service for our residents, and hopefully that can be done. So thank you very much, everyone.
Juste un commentaire avant de finir.
Monsieur Brisson, Conseiller Brisson.
Yeah, because maybe before putting it on the sign that they can send it to Rona and that, because I did call today and they were saying that even at Russell that they were taking it, but maybe just confirm with both the boss over there from Rona and the hardware before advertising that they're taking the paint, that will be advertising and making sure that they confirm that they're still taking it. So just that we don't advertise, I'll go and bring it to the hardware and they don't take it anymore because of the truck. Because whenever I called, they never said that they were not able to. Okay, thank you, Conseiller Brisson. Yeah, I'm pretty sure staff know how to do
how to do the work, I'm sure they'll verify to make sure that before we advertise something, that's actually the case. So we'll move on. Item 12, there was none. Item 13, there was none. Question meeting on the day. I see Madame Crystal Warner has several questions. Mrs. Warner or Miss Warner, these questions are not related to the agenda we have today whatsoever. So I invite you to send me an email or to send any member of council an email if you'd like to discuss these items further. But as per our procedural bylaw, since these items aren't being addressed on the agenda, we cannot discuss them. So I'll go to the first question that's relating to this agenda. So we have Mr. Charles Armstrong, 85 Castlebluff Street. Question in regards to item 11H. I'm questioning the bicycle use of the shoulder to the north of Blais Street. The drawing in the agenda indicates that there is a control flow two-way or bi-directional bike lane. The Highway Traffic Act, which applies throughout the entire width of the road allowance, requires vehicles, including bicycles, to drive to the right side of the roadway at all times, less few exceptions. It is an offense not to cycle on the right side. The only exceptions are 1, when turning left, and 2, where the municipality creates a one-way street and the municipality establishes control flow bicycle lanes. The Book 18 is entirely consistent with the HTA and establishes the standards for these control flow bicycle lanes and their markings. It is indicated here that Blais Street is to become a one-way street to accommodate the control lanes, or will the new markings indicate a bicycle lane from east to west only? Monsieur Bourgon, can we be precise? This is not a bicycle lane only. This is a multi-use pathway, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So it makes it hard because most of the guidelines that we have from the province, it's either bike lane or pedestrian lane or sidewalks. In our case, it's being utilized or used by several type of users. In my report, I did put those paintings, but as an example to show council type of drawings. But it's just to show that it's a multi-use path. So here we're doing our best to try to improve the safety of that lane, and the intent of my report was just to show council the different type of symbol that can be added on.
Okay, but obviously you'll follow all the standards in place when moving forward to making those changes next year.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Mr. Baker, 208 Forest Road in Russell. Are there any grants that could be used to restore the New York City train station in Embrun? The Railway Museum in Smith Falls would love to have it. Thanks for sharing the information that Smith Falls would like to have it. That's I was not as aware of that. And to be clear, it's not the NYC train station in Embrun. This is a train station that was from Berwick. It's not the original train station that was attached to this line. So is there grants available? I think that Madame Guitard is always on the lookout for grants. I know, we've tried numerous times for grants in the Village of Russell for the museum, and we always come up short. I would assume that the same standards or grant criteria that's used for the museum in Russell would be similar to this one. And since we actually don't have a use for this one at this point in time, I can't see any grants being successful. But Madame Guitard, would you like to add anything to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's funny that Mr. Baker mentions Smith Falls, because I did meet some gentlemen that were involved in the Smith Falls train station. One of the gentlemen, if I believe, lives in Russell. But after our meeting, I never heard again from them. So, but definitely I can touch base with them again, because they were part of a whole museum group for train stations. So definitely I can touch base with them again if there is an interest. And as for grants, like you said, there's a very minimum number of grants that you can apply on infrastructure, recreation, and heritage. And the train station is not designated as heritage. So yeah, it's very limited in what we can ask for grants, unfortunately. But definitely I do have my eyes open, and you know, whenever there's something available, I try to have it.
Okay. We have a question from Mr. Baker. Our hardware stores will only take dry paint cans, but he also asked, could the old township dump be set up for a drop-off as a hazardous waste? Monsieur Bourgon, that would, the license is expired at that location. We'd have to go through the whole process again. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, so right now our old landfill site is being under like a closed landfill. So obviously it's something that we would need to run by the ministry at first to see if they would even consider our that type of application, considering the status of our current site right now. There's probably a full process behind all that to see if it's even be considered by the ministry.
Okay, Monsieur Leduc.
On top of that, Mr. Mayor and members of council, all the infrastructure that was on site, the building itself and whatever else was there has been moved to our public works office. So whatever that was on the site before addressing this concern is no longer on site.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And last question, Mr. Baker. He says hazardous day was a big success. Can we have another one soon? If not, people will be sending the hazard waste to the landfill. As mentioned, Mr. Baker, it's not only about cost, it's about availability, and the company at this point in time is booked up for 2020. We have one booked for the springtime. Again, I think there's going to be an educational component on our administrative team to get the word out there and the public to let people know that there are other options available. But Monsieur Bourgon will be looking at how to improve this service moving forward. Councillor Tarnowski?
Sorry, I just wanted to confirm, we did mention it really quickly, but Mr. Bourgon, are there any other options other than Drainol that we can look at, or have we looked at?
Mr. Bourgon?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. They are the only one that I'm aware of. We can certainly try to dig if there's more or someone else available, but based on my knowledge, they're the only one in the Eastern Ontario that provide that type of service.
Okay, so we'll have a look, but chances are that they're the only ones. Okay, thank you very much, Monsieur Bourgon. That's it for the public question period. I will move on to the next item, item 15, resolutions. Recommendation, motion that council approve all the recommendations listed on the agenda under item 11, reports from departments and council committees. We will put it on the table, then I think we have an amendment to remove a few. So to put on the table, I have a mover and a seconder, moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Madame Camré-Laflamme, which two items were we removing?
Mr. Mayor, it's item 11J and I.
I and J. Okay, so mover and a seconder.
I think it's G in French, like George.
George, G. G and I.
Sorry.
Okay. J-E-E.
Yes.
So I need a mover and a seconder to remove those two items, Councillor Tarnowski and Conseiller Lorrain. All in favor of removing these two items?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Andre, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy So say yes.
Okay, so these two are removed, so we'll vote on everything except G and I. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
Andre, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy So say yes.
Okay, and that is carried. So we'll now go to item G, which was the Route 200 realignment report ISPW 18-2020. Let's make sure that bylaw is separated as well, Madame Camré-Laflamme, because I think we need to redo some wording on the actual bylaw itself.
Yes,
so I need a
that's
mover and a
correct.
seconder to put it on the table, moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Did we want to, it's on the table, anything to add at this point in time? Conseiller Lorrain?
Yeah, I talked before about it at the last meeting, and is there going to be something else that's going to come up regarding the actual stop at Edie and 200 then? in terms of stop signs, or I think we were getting a report of accidents and whatnot to there.
Yeah, Mr. Bourgon?
Merci, Mr. Mayor. So yes, for the stop sign or the intersection itself, I will be bringing a report separately. I'm currently applying with the Ministry of Transportation to obtain all the collision data for that intersection. So that's the last piece I'm missing to complete the report at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Conseiller Brisson?
Ce serait savoir c'est quoi l'avantage ou la différence entre avoir la pancarte jaune qui marque 60 km ou avoir la pancarte blanche qui marque 60 km. Ça fait une différence?
Monsieur,
les implications?
Monsieur Bourgon, un, c'est une recommandation, l'autre, c'est la loi.
Exactement. Donc, puis même, il y a deux des courbes qui sont vraiment, qui doivent être à 40. Donc, la limite de vitesse d'être descendue à 60. Puis, il va falloir quand même mettre des indicatifs jaunes pour réduire la vitesse à 40 là, dans ce secteur-là.
OK, parfait.
Pourquoi que tu ne mets pas tout de suite à 40, même le blanc, si la courbe est plus à pic? C'est juste pour la courbe.
Monsieur Bourgon?
Normalement, dans des situations comme ça, le différentiel de vitesse de 80 à 60, c'est pas quelque chose de typique là, de 80 à 40.
Mais si la curve est trop dangereuse.
C'est pour ça que tu as aussi l'addition de tables jaunes là, dans ce secteur-là.
La table, c'est pas quand on dit la table jaune, c'est l'enseigne pour la curve.
L'enseigne jaune.
Ouais. Pareil comme avant le garage municipal.
C'est ça. Puis aussi, Monsieur le maire, j'aimerais ajouter, en fait, de préciser le bylaw. Je recommanderais au conseil de peut-être, on pourrait repousser l'approbation du règlement à la prochaine rencontre afin que je puisse avoir les mesures exactes. Pour venir au point de M. Brisson de plus tôt, au lieu de vraiment dire entre le segment complet, ça pourrait dire, exemple, 800 mètres à l'est du chemin Eddy, puis 400 mètres à l'est de Saint-Guillaume. Donc, okay. J'aimerais mieux mesurer de façon exacte pour identifier l'endroit exact où on veut mettre l'affiche.
So in that case, let's.
Je propose de tabler à la prochaine réunion.
To defer to the next meeting. Okay, so we mover, seconder, Councillor Tarnowski. All those in favor of deferring it to the next meeting?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy still say yes.
Okay, the item is deferred till the next meeting. Thank you very much. Prochain item is item I, the New York Central Station report. Council receives the information report PR 16-2020 dated October 19, 2020 and gives direction to the administration for the next step to be taken for the revitalization of the train station. Need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Councillor Saucier. It is now on the table, up for further discussion, comments, amendments. Now's the time. Councillor Lorraine and Councillor Saucier.
Well, I'm just going to suggest that we receive the report because I don't believe there's any direction to be given at this point. If we're going to be looking at it at budget time and whatnot, or in different iterations of it, so. I don't think there's a requirement to have and gives the second paragraph or second sentence that says and gives direction.
Okay, so you want to strike that second sentence out completely?
Correct.
Okay, so I have a mover from Conseiller Lorraine, seconder, Councillor Tarnowski. So we have that change on the that amendment on the table. Any questions on that amendment? None, so we'll vote on the amendment itself. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment?
Mike Tarnowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy still say yes.
Okay. Perfect. So the amendment is carried, and now now we'll vote on it as amended. So all those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Still say yes.
Perfect. Item is carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Wait.
can you just advise again who was the mover and seconder of the main motion, if anyone recalls?
I believe the main motion was Councillor Tarnowski and Councillor Saucier.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Okay. That's it for resolutions. We will now go to bylaws. So motion that council approves bylaws 2020-118 to 2020.
That's it. 2020.
118.
It's 121, but this item will be separate.
Le 121 va être séparé.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put it, it's from 2020-118 to 2020-121. We'll put it on the table. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. So now we'll make an amendment to remove item 121. So I need a mover and a seconder to remove that item. Remove Councillor Lorrain and Councillor Tarnowski. All those in favor of removing this item?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Still say yes.
That item is now removed. So we'll now vote on the 2020 to 118, 119, and 120. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, oui.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Still say yes.
Perfect. Bylaws are carried. That's it for the bylaws section. Item 17, new business reports. We have none. Item 18, other business presented by council members. We have none. Item 19, public consultation. Yeah, Conseiller Lorrain.
Sorry, based on discussions that we had tonight, there was something I was going to suggest early, but beforehand. Can I make a question or a statement on something?
Go ahead, Conseiller Lorrain. So
Okay.
we'll put it under section 18.
Yes, please. And it's called speed sign and curb. So based on what we're thinking of doing in the speed zones or in the curbs for Route 100 or 200, we just seen another accident happen on Route 400 just before the Public Works building on the weekend, and I want to go back to that signage there and see if there's a way we can fix the signage on that street going east on 400, going into the curb, coming around exactly where the accident was, because you've got Groves Road there, you've got a 50 sign, then you got a yellow 60 sign, then you got an 80 sign that's right at the curb, but the 60 sign for the curb is before Groves Road. So it makes no sense that we have a 60 sign, yellow sign before Groves Road and a white 80 sign right in the curb. If that curb should be 60, based on the yellow behind us, we need to have that fixed. And if it means dropping it to a 60 zone from whether it's Edie Road or whatnot all the way around to that curb, then I think we need to do something like that. So how do we go about doing that in that area to avoid further accidents in that curb?
Okay, thank you, Conseiller Lorrain. If council is in agreement, can we just give direction to the administration to have a look at that, similar like we did with Route 200, the stop sign at Edie Road? Would members of council be okay with that?
And come back with a report?
Yeah, Monsieur.
Just to clarify, that's Wade Road there.
Sorry, that's right. Wade Road, not Edie.
Monsieur Bourgon, you know which area we're referring?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I know what's exactly where Ms. Councillor Lorrain is referring to.
Okay, so you'll have a look at that and you'll bring something back to council in the near future?
Yeah, we can bring a report back.
Okay.
Maybe at the same time as the other one.
Members of council are okay with that direction?
Yep.
Yeah, OK, parfait.
Thank
Vous êtes
you.
correct avec ça, l'administration? Parfait, oui. OK. We'll move on to the next item, item 20, which is the closed session. Pursuant to section 239, 2, 3, and 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, motion to move into closed meeting at the hour of 7:34 p.m. to address matters pertaining to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, Chapter 25, to consider matters relating to 1, transfer of land in Embrum, verbal report, under section 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition land by the municipality or local board. And item 2, closed session minutes of the regular council meeting dated September 21st, 2020. So I need a mover and a seconder to go into closed session. Moved by Conseiller Larin, second by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor?
Andre, oui.
Mike Ternosky, yes, sorry, I was muted.
Andre, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Sosi, yes.
Perfect. So we're now in closed session. For those who are new to our meeting, members of council go into a separate meeting closed to the public to discuss this item. Once we are done, we will report back. We will log back into this meeting and then do our report of a closed session and our confirming bylaw to end the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Mr. Mayor, can you invite me in, please?
Yeah, will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. We have returned. We were now reporting out of closed session. Madame Camille-Laflamme.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we're back at 7:56 p.m. For the first item, which was section 2C. Council was briefed on the subject, and we now have a motion for council's consideration. So the motion reads, motion to authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the release for the right to repurchase part of lot 50 on plan FM Eagleson 1912 as per the October 19th, 2020 email received.
Okay, need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Conseiller Tarnowski. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. It is carried. Thank you very much, everyone.
And Mr. Mayor, just to say as well that the minutes of the closed session of September 21st were presented and adopted.
Yes, thank you, Madame Camille-Laflamme.
Thank you.
Item 21, confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2020-122. 122?
Yes.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Township of Russell at its regular council meeting held on October 21st, 2020, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Conseiller Lorrain. All those in favor?
Mike Tarnowski, yes.
André, oui.
Jamie, yes.
Cindy Saucier, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The next special public meetings of council will be held on October 21st and 22nd, so this Wednesday and Thursday for the budget working sessions. And then our next regular public meeting of council will be held on Monday, November 2nd, 2020. We are adjourned at 7:58 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. See you all shortly.
Take care.